Since the disappearance of federal flagship protections, there have been 50 rotations. The last report of this vessel was located on the edge of federal space, near the border with UNS development. The vessel reported encountering an unidentified ship of unknown configuration and was en route to conduct a standard impound and investigation mission. This was the last message I received from the Protector. Several search teams were dispatched to sweep dozens of galaxies, starting with the one closest to the last reported position, methodically expanding the search outward, but finding nothing each time. Eventually, the Protector was officially declared missing in space, and the search was called off. The disappearance seemed mysterious, with no trace other than an unidentified craft of unknown configuration. We knew they were going to investigate it, but the truth was, we didn't know what was happening. About 5 rotations ago, a small scout ship, located about 50 light-years from the Protector's last known position, discovered an escape pod from the Protector containing the crew commander, the Protector's first mate. He had grounded himself, probably because there wasn't enough food to sustain him for long. The scout ship revived Commander Zur and brought him to my base. At first, I wanted to speak with him, but he was too terrified to talk, only mentioning a symbol with 4 wheels. Every day, I waited for him to be ready to discuss it, and every day he broke down mid-sentence, until today. Today, he finally regained the ability to speak. The mystery will eventually be solved. Analysts held a briefing on the incident, dated rotation 155,101 years in the Central Federation calendar. They then waved to Commander Zur, who shyly leaned forward and began speaking in a low voice, almost a whisper. It was a standard tape-recorded briefing. The analyst cut him off to start with the date, which made me shift impatiently in my seat, but I tried to remain calm. The analyst was just doing their job. Commander Zur began again. The date was rotation 105, year 101, Central Federation calendar. We had detected a small vessel of unknown configuration. It couldn't have been more than 50 zans long. Hell, the Protector was 1,000 zans long. The damn thing fit in our hands. He stopped, regained his composure, and then continued. We proceeded with a standard scan and survey mission, disabling the ship systems to tow it in and reversing any technical problems with the occupant release. Standard procedure. But there was something off. The small ship was incredibly maneuverable, which is typical for ships of its size, but its firepower was far beyond what should have been possible. No ship that small should have been able to pack that much of a punch. Zur's voice quivered slightly as he continued. It had the firepower of a ship half the size of the Protector, not 12 times smaller. Hell, the captain almost called off the whole mission, but we managed to disable the ship. With a few more volleys, I think the captain would have cancelled it. We brought it on board, and the breaching team started working on the docking hatch. It took them much longer than usual for any other alien craft we've encountered. Eventually, we managed to break in, and the boarding crew moved in. He paused, his eyes meeting mine, almost making him stop, but I stayed silent, and he continued. The first team was the first to perish. Each team member broadcasted what they saw, and I watched from the bridge with the captain. At first, we only caught fleeting glimpses of some kind of creature. It seemed to walk upright on 2 legs, but we couldn't get a clear look. The team fanned out to cover more ground and clear the ship faster. Then, the first team member's feed just cut out. No weapons, no fire, no screams, no sign of danger. They entered a room, and the feed was cut out. We sent another person to check on them, and the same thing happened. The room was empty, dark and quiet. No sign of the missing team members, no sign of aliens, just an almost empty room with a few consoles with flashing lights, but nothing out of place. He let out a sigh that seemed to last forever before continuing. Then they set a trap. Everything happened at once. The room where the first half of the team had been was suddenly lit up like crazy. As far as we can tell, the entire ship came alive, and we heard screams and weapons fire, not just from the team's feed but also from the monitoring systems in the bay. The alien ship picked it up too. It was too late. The first half of the team was already dead, but the aliens weren't even trying to hide anymore. The rest of the team was cut off, but before I could lose sight of them, I saw one of the aliens. It was bipedal with 2 arms and 2 legs, mostly black-coated, probably armor or clothing. Its skin was pinkish tan, but the scariest part was its eyes. They were white with blue rings and a black center, not located on the sides of the head like most intelligent species. No, they were the eyes of a predator, and they were staring right at me. Well, technically, they were staring at the feet of the poor soldier I was watching, but it felt like they were looking right at me. Commander Zer paused for several deep, labored breaths, as if reliving his worst nightmare. The signal was cut off almost immediately, and the alien systems suddenly came back online. We shouldn't have been showing any power readings indicating that the alien ship was deactivated. Then, it fired. It fired at the ship it was docked on, which is crazy to think about. In any case, the hangar's automated security systems fired back. It couldn't have been more than a few seconds, but then the alien ship exploded, destroying communications to the hangar bay, the FTL drive, and part of the surrounding deck. Fortunately, the automated system sealed the breaches almost immediately after the explosion, so we didn't lose too much atmosphere, but the damage was done. I decided to speak up. When we found and revived you, you kept mentioning something about symbols. Your knowledge isn't detailed enough, but there was a symbol, Zer said. We found a fragment of the alien hull on an adjacent deck. It had a symbol on it. Could you recreate the symbol now? I asked. He nodded, and the technician handed him a pad and writing utensil. The commander hesitated for a moment, then handed me the pad. I looked down and saw the symbol. I don't know what it means, but it seems significant to these bipedal aliens. In any case, it was our only lead. I handed the pad to my assistant, who loaded it into the main computer for analysis. My assistant left the room with the pad, and I turned my attention back to Commander Zer, gesturing for him to continue. We thought that was the end of the strange events, he said with a sigh. But we couldn't have been more wrong. That's when things started to go wrong. He looked at me again and nodded. It started when a technician lost their plasma torch. Then some technical equipment went missing. An abnormal lock disappeared, and one of the data flash drives also vanished. At first, we thought it was just crew fatigue causing accidents. After all, the damage was extensive, and the crews were working non-stop to repair it. But then things got really weird. First, the efficiency of the main computer dropped by 2%. We initially attributed it to the additional processing load from repairs and damage, but then the life support system started failing. Instead of shutting down, they changed the environmental settings. Oxygen levels dropped to 20%, carbon dioxide levels rose to 0.5%, nitrogen and some argon began replacing helium, and humidity dropped significantly. We thought it was a computer glitch, but every time we reset it to Federation standards, the bad settings returned within hours. We even tried restarting the main computer, thinking it was working because everything seemed normal, but we learned that the computer sensors were deceiving us. Despite what the computer told us, we didn't feel any difference in the environment. That's when a primal feeling of fear began to take hold of me, the kind where you know you're being watched by a predator. After about a week, I knew where this was headed. We know what happened by now, but it was too late. Once the FTL drive was back online, the captain ordered an immediate return to the nearest Confederate outpost. We should have reached it within a cycle, but after one cycle, the FTL outpost was nowhere in sensor range. It didn't take long to realize that we had gone off course, but not because of a miscalculation. We went in the opposite direction. Then we started a detailed study of the computer on board. When we finally realized what happened, we found some shots because about 5 doubles escaped the explosion before the explosion exploded. They used attacks and explosions as a diversion and escape guard. The captain orders an immediate wipe of the computer and a full backup before we encounter the aliens. Unfortunately, they have targeted us. They don't even try to hide their presence anymore. The computer was out of control, and we watched helplessly as the computer pulled up, queried, and downloaded every classified document, every known species, the culture index in the database, and every piece of information on the computer was pulled up and downloaded to Deck 5, a position of. So the captain did the only thing we could. Ordering a sweep of the 5th deck to capture or remove the tag, Commander Zell paused, took a deep breath, made eye contact with me, then continued the men's operations, never reaching the deck. 5. The bipeds knew we were coming and attacked our group en route. At this point, they began to attack, and they began to seize the ship level by level, and the crew members who did not evacuate in time were felled by a blow from their guns. At this point, the captain orders the remaining crew to abandon the ship. Somehow they knew and intercepted us on the way to the escape pod. The captain ordered us to rush and escape at all costs. None of us made it. I said I was confused. Well, apparently you did it. I pointed out that there was no general commander, Zur replied. I got the furthest, but as I entered my escape pod, Commander Zur took a deep breath as I entered my escape pod. It grabbed me, pulled me back, pushed me against the wall, and looked me straight in the eyes. Those eyes so piercing, the white, blue rings, and the black in the middle honest at all. I thought I was going to die. I asked what was going on, and it kept me there for a while, and then I told Zoran that they know how to talk. I can't understand my native language, but I will never forget what it says. What did it say? Well, Sir Zaire started. He gave the message to you. I was puzzled, and overall, there were some talented orders. Zell explained. We don't know why you attacked us, but please tell your superiors. It won't happen again, and then it pushes me into the escape pod, then jumps out and continues to tumble. They considered our standard C and investigative protocols to be an act of aggression, and I asked and urged him to continue. Good sir, at first I took the beeping words as a warning not to do that again and to stay away from the commander I commanded, but I hoped I was wrong. Well, you see, I had a lot of time to think about this ship, at least based on the data we received and what I could create from it. Well, there should have been more than 5. Only 5 made it, but the ship they ran could easily have had at least twice as much of my heart sinking, I think. I know they took our actions as an act of aggression, but if I'm right, I think we accidentally killed some of them too. So, if I am right, not only do they think we are the aggressors, but their words are not a warning to stay away but a warning to retaliate, sir. He said, and his voice began to shake. They come in all directions. The next 3 rotations were nothing more than regular supply ships, with patrols coming in and out. Commander Zur was transferred to the team to reintroduce his testimony and give as much information as possible about the doubling threat. I recommend immediate mobilization, activated reserves, and increasing warship production by modernizing each sea vessel according to wartime standards. The team accepted my suggestion, but when I was asked which industry to mobilize the fleet, I was losing sight of where these beauties were from. We do not know where they come from, how many invasive vessels they can call, or whether we evaluated the invasion correctly. But if 5 of them, the 5 boats, have tried to remove the Federal flagship shop and a crew of more than 500 Federal crew, they know nothing for us until they are almost protected from protection, as the person knows all our databases. Not to mention that they are likely to have a lot of time to change the engineers, analyze, and invent our most advanced technology. Meanwhile, we didn't know any of them other than the commander's Z experience and their symbol. Certainly. Of course, I did not sleep on posterity. We should have seen this long before the Protector disappeared. Standards monitoring and investigation is one of the Commonwealth's most controversial standards missions. Opponents pointed out that it was very aggressive and violated the right of defenders, as it has never been against it, but the security of the Federation should be mentioned. In addition, the Federation is the most advanced league in the known galaxy. Even if other alien species were unhappy with this policy, they would never be able to meaningfully oppose the Federation. This is foolish arrogance. It was only a matter of time before we encountered species more powerful than us, and the standard attack and investigation weren't exactly the first impression you wanted to make. In fact, I had even made this exact objection in the Academy. All those years ago, when I was so against the standard season and, of course, the Inquisition, over time I came to understand and see that it was a necessary evil for the good of the Federation. But now it's too late to realize that my younger self was the smart one. This policy contributed to our failure. It was only a matter of time, but after 3 rounds, they didn't come and attack. I just started to relax, and things started to return to normal. Except for a small fleet that protects each planet and some warships stationed at my outpost. The date is rotating in the 158th Central Federal calendar. As I was about to end my shift, I was called into the Situation Room. Gentlemen, said poorly when I signaled. At her station, we found a fleet consisting of 12 unknown ships. My heart began to sink. Although they are only a few light years away, they arrive quickly. We have at most a few hours before our arrival. The auto outpost couldn't identify the ships, but we did get one symbol, but the symbol file is classified without a name. I went to the console and entered my command code. The image appeared, and I froze. The feeling had come over me again, the primal fear of being watched by a predator that had its sights set on you. But this time it wasn't a story. It wasn't something that was happening to someone else this time. It was real, and it was happening now, sir. What should we do? Signs require a priority message to be sent to the team. Tell them it's on. The communications officers quickly began sending a series of messages to the team. But shortly after, one of them stopped and turned to me. Sir, we're stuck, sir. What are we doing? My second in command asked me. I hadn't taken my eyes off that symbol. A recognized symbol and a protective herd found our bond with 2 feet on the foreign building. But this is not a boat. It's 12. Everyone has this symbol. I still didn't know what the symbol meant, but it didn't really matter at this point. Still, it was all I could do to stare at the screen and stare at that symbol. The Federation's day of reckoning has come, and we don't know much about our enemies, but we do know the symbols they use to identify their ships, the Tellan Alliance. Sir, what should we do? My next commander asked me again in a more urgent tone. For the first time as a general, I was in a state of fear, not knowing what to do, in fear, in uncertainty, and in the awareness that we were facing a threat. Our ignorance of it all paralyzed me, staring at that symbol at that moment. I know what happens next will change the fate of the Federation forever. If you like this story and want to support us, leave a channel like us and subscribe to our channel to show that each of us will be excited. Thanks for your precious time.